So we are going to start the debate. First, we are going to call a list. Team in favor, Adriana Paola Orozco.
Present.
Christopher Raúl Salcedo.
Present.
Gary Vladimir Huanca. Isis Neiza. Iber Alejandro Chino. Johnny Rubén López.
Here.
Luis Alberto Padrón. Y Ramiro Meave. Now, team against. Adriana Ayala. Ana Rosa Ramos. Carla Gabriela Tignini. Cristian Marcelo Rojas. Mauricio Blondel. Melody Annalise. Natalia Gabriela. Nicolás Fuentes. Y Rodrigo Franklin Zelay. Okay. So we finished calling lists. So we are going to make a debate about Vladimir Putin, the actual president of Russia. So a really brief summary is that Vladimir Putin started governing Russia since May 7 of 2000 and until nowadays. Team against, please start your introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone. Vladimir Putin has been a dominant figure in Russian politics for over 2 decades, exercising significant control over the country. However, his leadership has brought about significant concerns in terms of human rights, democracy, and global stability. Under his mandate, we have seen a series of actions that have eroded fundamental freedoms and consolidated power in the hands of a few. One of the most alarming aspects of his leadership is the systematic repression of political opposition and civil society. Government critics, independent journalists, and activists have faced political persecution with numerous cases of unjustified arrests, violence, and even unresolved murders. This climate of fear and censorship has weakened the institution that hold a free society. Additionally, corruption and nepotism under Putin's regime has hindered equitable economic development and perpetuated social inequalities. The country's resources have been exploited for the benefit of a selected elite, while the majority of Russian citizens struggle to access a decent and secure life. Additionally, on the international stage, Putin's aggressive and expansionist policies have destabilized entire regions, from the annexation of Crimea to support for authoritarian regimes. These actions not only violate international law, but also threaten global peace and security.
Okay, now team in favor, your introduction, please. Adri Orozco.
Thank you. Today we discuss the leadership of Vladimir Putin and Russia's recent actions in a world characterized by complexity and uncertainty. It's crucial to recognize and understand the role that Putin plays as a leader, as well as the decisions he has made on behalf of his nation. Putin undoubtedly embodies a firm and decisive style of leadership. He has been credited with the ability to make bold and energetic decisions in critical situations, which have contributed to stabilizing Russia's positions on the world stage. His leadership is characterized by long-term strategic visions that seeks to protect national interests and ensure the security of his country in a complex geopolitical environment. Furthermore, it's important to highlight that Russia plays a crucial role in the international arena, contributing to regional and global security as well as economic stability. Putin has sought to strengthen diplomatic relations and promote cooperation in key areas such as energy, security, counter-terrorism, and conflict resolution. In conclusion, Vladimir Putin's leadership and Russia's actions should be evaluated with a deep understanding of the context in which he operates. Putin is a leader who has demonstrated his commitment to defending his country's interests and promoting international stability. When discussing his leadership and Russian policies, we must consider both the challenges they face and achievements they have made for benefit of their nation and the world at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are going to pass with the first question. Do you think Putin's presidency has been more positive or negative for the Russian people in general? You have 1 minute to prepare your answer. Okay, time's up. Which team would like to start? Okay, team against? Natalia?
Vladimir Putin's presidency has been marked by significant erosion of democratic institutions and human rights violations, which have had a profoundly negative impact on the Russian people. Under his leadership, political pluralism has been stifled as a power that has been centralized, weakening democratic practices and institutions. Additionally, economically speaking, Russia has suffered under Putin's tenure due to pervasive corruption and also economic mismanagement. And despite initial growth, the economy has stagnated in recent years, heavily reliant on oil and also gas exports, and vulnerable to global price fluctuations. On a third point, Putin's presidency has seen a deterioration in Russia's relations with the West, leading to economic isolation and sanctions that have harmed the Russian economy. And his militaristic and security-focused policies have increased defense spending at the expense of social programs, exacerbating public health and social issues.
Ana Ramos?
For this answer, I would like to two resources, number 10 and number 11, please. Gini index. Actually, a Gini index is to understand a Gini index is when it is 0% expresses perfect equality, while index of 100% expresses maximal inequality. So we can see that Russia is painted orange, what means that Russia has between 35% to 40% of inequality, where it is a large inequality gap. And you can go to the other resource, please. Yes. As you can see in the first paragraph, most are among 10,000 people, which represent the 0.01% of the population, who account for the 12% of Russia's wealth, according to the World Inequality Database. So we can say that in Russia exists a large gap of inequality, where just the 0.01% of the population have the majority of the wealth in the country.
Okay, thank you, Ana. Now we are going to pass to the team in favor. Johnny Lopez, you have.
Okay, so first of all, when Putin got to be leader of Russia, to be elected president, he showed great signs of transformational leadership because he managed to stabilize the economy of the country post the 1998 financial crisis. fostering a period of growth and increased living standards alongside Russia. And a lot of the sanctions that the team against mentioned are actually imposed by some countries that are the main supporters of Russian economy, like Germany, that is the main importer of Russian gas.
Okay, thank you. Now, team against. Adriana?
Complementing the responses of my colleague, I think also that Vladimir Putin, Putin's presidency is seen as negative for many Russian people for several factors. The first of them is social inequality. Income inequality in Russia is among the highest in the world, like Anita talked, with a small elite controlling a disproportionate share of the country's wealth. This has led to social tensions and resentment among ordinary Russians who feel left behind by the country's economic development. Putin's government has done little to address these inequalities, exacerbating the sense of injustice and alienation among many citizens. Also, Putin's government has been criticized for fostering a hostile environment towards LGBTQ+ individuals. Under his leadership, Russia has implemented laws and policies that discriminate against these people and restrict their rights. So for this, I have a resource, please. It's number 8.
Los derechos de los homosexuales en Rusia no avanzan, sino que retroceden. El presidente ruso Vladimir Putin ha firmado este domingo la controvertida ley que castiga con multas de entre 100 y 125 euros todo acto de propaganda de relaciones sexuales no tradicionales delante de menores, sea personalmente, por internet o a través de medios de comunicación. La sanción rondará los 20.000 euros si se trata de una entidad jurídica y si los infractores son extranjeros pueden ser expulsados del país. Nuevamente los actos de protesta, como este que ven en San Petersburgo, han sido duramente perseguidos por la policía. En Rusia las manifestaciones a favor de los derechos de los homosexuales están prohibidas. Un 88% de los rusos está a favor de esta prohibición y más del 40% estaría a favor de perseguir penalmente las tendencias sexuales no tradicionales.
Okay, now Luis Padrón.
I think Russia has experienced greater political stability compared to previous periods, which has contributed to maintaining internal cohesion in the country's security. Even if you know Putin has become the most powerful man in the world. In economic, Russia has experienced significant economic growth and is one of the countries in the world with most millionaires. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Now, Adri Orozco, please.
I would like to add that the information that I was made before, why Vladimir Putin has generated a positive impact for his country, Russia. I would like to say that investment in infrastructure and social development, significant investment have been made in infrastructure and social development, enhance the quality of life of Russian citizens through the modernization of roads, hospitals, and schools. And I would like to add to demographic policies and social welfare. Putin has implemented policies to incentivize childbirth and improve social welfare, including support programs for families, pensions, and healthcare. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, team against, Gabriela.
Well, we have to recognize that Vladimir Putin's presidency has had both positive and negative impacts on Russia. Initially, he brought economic stabilization, improving living standards, and also providing political stability and restoring national pride after the chaotic 1990s. But that was on the 90s. Nowadays, these achievements are overshadowed by significant drawbacks.
including the centralization of power, which undermined democratic institutions and processes, and widespread corruption that benefits a small elite, leading to economic inequality and inefficiency. Moreover, his suppression of free speech, his administration has been marked by severe human rights violations, including the suppression of free speech, persecution of political opponents, and targeting of minority groups, as we watched the video. Additionally, Putin's aggressive foreign policies have resulted in international sanctions and diplomatic isolation, damaging Russia's economy and global relationships. Consequently, while there were some early benefits, the long-term negative effects of his leadership, particularly in terms of authoritarianism, corruption, human rights abuses, and international isolation, suggest that his presidency has been more detrimental than beneficial for Russia.
Thank you. Now we are going to listen the response of the team in favor, Johnny Lopez.
Thanks. So, using the last resource that the team in favor again show, in that same resource, it states that 88% of the population of Russia support the law. So, I think this just comes to show how great leadership Putin is applying here. He's an adaptive lead. He's using a little bit of adaptive leadership, demonstrates the flexibility he has to adapt to what people he's leading and support their ideas. And also, if 88% of the population vote in favor of the law, I think he took actions on it. I think it is just another proof that he's a great leader.
Okay, thank you. Now the team against, Adriana.
Okay, as Padron mentioned, that he says that Putin is a powerful man in the world of political. I think that being the most powerful man does not ensure that he is a good president for his people, as this implies many factors behind it. First of all, abuse of power. When a leader has too much power, there is a risk that he will abuse it for his own benefit or to suppress dissent. This can lead to corruption, human rights abuses, and erosion of democratic institutions. Also, the lack of accountability. Powerful leaders can become insulated for criticism and accountability, which can lead to a lack of transparency and oversight. And also, powerful leader has repression of opposition and ineffective decision making, as there is no mechanism for incorporating diverse perspectives of challenging assumptions. And finally, a failure to address challenges. Powerful leaders may be less inclined to recognize and address societal challenges or crises if it threatens their grip on power. So the result can be political paralysis, inadequate responses to pressing problems, and long-term damage to the country's well-being.
Okay, thank you. Now the response of the team in favor, Ramiro Meave.
Okay, so under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, Russia has experienced relative stability and economic growth, particularly compared to the tumultuous period that followed the collapse of the Soviet Union. So Putin's policies have focused on straining in the Russian state, so restoring national pride and improving living standards for many citizens. So talking economically, Putin's presidency has overseen a period of growth and stability, so fueled in part by Russia's vast reserves of natural resources. So the economy has diversified to some extent, with sectors like technology and manufacturing seeing growth. Additionally, Putin has implemented social welfare programs aimed at alleviating poverty and improving healthcare and education. So, looking for the GDP of Russia, we saw that after the 2000s continues to nowadays, the GDP is 2.24 billion. So has a big growth between those dates. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Now, Natalia.
Okay. On the other hand, I want to talk about the topic that Johnny was mentioning. I have a counter question for him and also for the team. How can Putin's administration defend the gay propaganda law, given that it has been widely condemned by international human rights organizations for violating fundamental freedoms of expression and assembly? Specifically, how does this law align with Russia's commitments under international agreements, such as the European Convention on Human Rights and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights?
Okay, thank you. Now, Johnny.
So, answering that, I think the answer is in the resource you share with us. 88% of the Russian population agree. So, I don't know if we need to wait till it reaches like 100%. But if this was the case, like we would never take decisions. And I think that the fact that he took that decision, even against a lot of international, even if he knew he would face a lot of international controversy, just comes to show how a great leader is. Like, he took the risk, he knew he was going to get backlash, but 88% of the population said it was a good, and it was what they wanted, so he did it.
Okay, thank you. Now, team against, Christian.
Oh, thank you. Putin is authoritarian and under-democratic. He's taught his country a very long quality, I like the value of his currency through considerability. He has also led Russia into a war with Ukraine. Thousands people from Ukraine are the refuge, and interests have been dangerous to everyone that talk of Russian and also in front of the rest of the world. There is no expression of freedom in Russian, and the opposition leaders such as, for example, Alexei Navalny has been imprisoned, exiled or murdered. The rest of Politica, this has been constant. So this restriction on freedom of expression is independently media or has been represented of journals critical. Of the government face intimidation, violence, and some case of murder from Russia.
If there is no more interventions, we are going to pass to the next question. The question number 2 says that, how do you evaluate Putin's ability to maintain political control in Russia for so many years? Each team have 1 minute to prepare your answer. Okay, time's up. Which team would like to start? Okay, team against, Ana Ramos.
Okay, so Putin's ability to maintain political control in Russia for so many years is due to a combination of power consolidation. Since assuming the presidency in 2000, Putin has systematically worked to consolidate his control over state institutions. so they can take decisions by their own. Additionally, there is control over the media, so they control, well, he controls what can be in television and what can't. Repression of the opposition, who, as Christian mentioned before, they often end up dead. Electoral manipulation and the effective use of nationalist and external threat narratives. So we can say that Putin is just a dictator who knows exactly how to maintain his power.
Gabriela.
Also, I would like to emphasize the international isolation that Putin's ability to maintain political control has caused. Geopolitical aggression, Putin's aggressive foreign policy, including the annexation of Crimea and the invasion of Ukraine, has led to severe international sanctions and diplomatic isolation. These actions have not only strained Russia's relation with Western countries, but also limited its economic and technological cooperation with the global community. This isolation hampers Russia's economic development and reduces its global influence. Also, the long-term consequences of sanctions. The sustained economic sanctions have had a long-term detrimental impact on Russia's economy, affecting everything from banking to technology sectors. And this economic strain exacerbates internal issues and undermines the stability and growth prospects of the country.
Team against, Adriana.
Okay. As we discussed recently, we also emphasize the power of Putin's presidency, which has led mainly to the violation of human rights. So Vladimir Putin has come under widespread criticisms due to his record of human rights violations in Russia, the representation of press freedom, and for this I have a resource, please. And number 3. Under his leadership, increasingly severe restrictions have been imposed on independent media, including the closure of critical outlets and the intimidation of journalists, also like Anita says. Furthermore, the persecution of political opponents, like the president of Ukraine, and human rights activists is common practice in Russia. With numbers of cases of arbitrary arrests, unfair trades, and mistreated in prison, ethnic minorities and LGBTQ+ groups have also been targets of discrimination and violence, and also organizations such as Human Rights Watch have extensively documented these violations as detailed in their annual report on Russia, as we can see. Thank you.
Okay, now team in favor, Johnny Lopez.
Thanks. So I think the fact that Putin has been in a position of power and successfully managing the biggest country in the world just show a lot of good points about his leadership style, especially charismatic leadership. Putin has the ability to inspire and gain support through his action and personality, but again, we have to take account that he is managing the world's biggest country, and a lot of the countries that sanction Russia, as the against mentioned, are actually their biggest benefactors, like Germany. It is an active member of NATO, and it is just the main buyer of Russian gas exports.
Okay, if there is no more interventions, now we are going to pass with the last question. How will you describe Vladimir Putin's relationship with the political opposition in Russia, and how has it evolved over the years? You have 1 minute to prepare your answer. hands up. Which team would like to start? Team against, Gabriela.
There are several key reasons why Vladimir Putin has a hostile relationship with the opposition. First of all, suppression of political dissent. His repressive measures. Putin's government has frequently employed repressive measures to silence dissent. Opposition figures have been arrested, imprisoned, or even poisoned, as in the case of Alexei Navalny. Such actions are intended to intimidate and neutralize political rivals, preventing them from challenging his authority effectively. And also his control over media. The Kremlin exerts significant control over Russian media, which is used to marginalize and discredit opposition leaders. State media often portrays opposition figures as unpatriotic or foreign agents, thereby undermining their credibility and support among the general population.
Okay, thank you. Team against, Rodrigo.
He doesn't have the intention to give space to them because he made a political disqualification of two candidates who based their proposal on criticisms of the current administration, and also a good reason that supports the fact that he only focused on people that only follows him is that there are dozens of demonstrations of some people that started a movement against Putin. However, he's not interested of they want to say or hear, because this sector for him is not so important because they disagree with what he has established.
Thank you. Team against, Nicolas.
In addition to what my colleague said, I'd like to add that also the opposition part, figures and activists in Russia are subjected to intimidation, harassment, and physical violence. Journalists have presents an attempt against the human rights, and also civil society activists who speaks out against the government always face threats to their safety and their well-being, and this climate of fear and intimidation serves to deter dissent and create a chilling effect on freedom of expression.
Thank you. Team against, Ana Ramos.
So I would like to say that currently the repression of the opposition is intense and omnipresent. Because I have 3 points to explain. First, the disqualification and banning. Many opposition candidates have been disqualified from participating in election under legal pretext, and opposition parties have been banned. Then the second point is the censorship and media control. Internet censorship and media control have been straightened, severely limiting the opposition's ability to communicate with public. And the third point I would like to say is the forced immigration. Many opponents have been forced to immigrate due to constant persecution, and those who remained in Russia continue to face an extremely hostile environment.
Okay, we are going, before we are going to listen the answer of Ramiro Meave of Team in Favor.
Okay, so Vladimir Putin's relationship with the political opposition in Russia has evolved pragmatically over the years, reflecting his commitment to maintaining stability while allowing for political pluralism. So initially facing criticism for perceived suppression of dissent, So Putin has nonetheless facilitated a diverse political landscape, permitting opposition parties to participate in elections and hold seats in the State Duma, while maintaining restrictions on certain activities to prevent destabilization. So Putin has demonstrated a willingness to engage with constructive elements of the opposition, implementing reforms to address grievances, improving electoral transparency. So also I want to ask to the team in favor, against, if you do you have the fact that where the government or the Putin poisoned some persons, some I don't know, government. There is no the fact that the government make that.
Okay, now with the response of the team against, Gabriela.
Yes, as I said on the first intervention, there was a poison case of a opponent called Alexei Navalny. She's already died because of this. There were a lot of investigations. I already mentioned it. And talking about electoral manipulation, Putin's willingness to make elections, clear elections, are not really being are not really true. There have been rigged elections. Elections in Russia under Putin have been widely criticized for being neither free nor fair. There are numerous reports of both rigging, ballot stuffing, and other forms of electoral fraud by manipulating the electoral process. Putin ensures that genuine opposition candidates have little chance of winning, further eroding democratic principles. But there have been a disqualification of other candidates. Potentially strong opposition candidates are often barred from running for office on dubious legal grounds. This prevents any significant challenge to Putin's rule from emerging within the formal political system.
Thank you, Carla. Now with the team in favor, Johnny Lopez.
Thank you. So all the things that the team against said are just accusations, and I think that assume that Putin himself is the one behind all of this is just an accusation, because again there's no proof of that. But also, Russia being the biggest country in the world, having such big population, having so much people going around politics, if some of those accusations were even remotely close to be real, it will just come to show that there's people that are willing to do stuff for him, showing how great of a charismatic leadership he's showing here. Because imagine the support has for the people that he's leading. And again, the data we have actually show that most of the Russian population is actually in favor of him, support him. He has managed to gain that stability and position himself in that same charismatic leadership role for so long.
Okay, thank you. Now with the response of team against, Mauricio.
Okay, we have to take into account that the disinformation or propaganda is another tool that Putin uses to manage the opposition. Okay, so as I was saying, another tool that Putin uses to manage the opposition is the disinformation. And as Jenny says, there are people that are willing to make Putin look great, but these people and also the opposition are both biased by the disinformation and the propaganda, because
It's how the government uses this tool to discredit the opposition and make it to see Putin as the only leader that is capable of guarantee the stability and security of the country, when he's not. He's not the only one. Russia has many capable people of manage or to lead the country better than Putin, in my opinion, and better than Putin in my opinion, but he's not willing to give chances to other person because he's so egocentric that he is.
Okay, thank you. Team in favor, Johnny Lopez.
Thanks. So, like he mentions, and again, I didn't say there were these people willing to do. I said if these things were something more than accusations, these points and statements that the team against saying without any real proof of Putin being the great villain, mastermind behind all of that. I think he's actually really willing to give a free speech and talk openly about a lot of things that he has done that actually got a lot of backlash. Like, I would like to use the resource number 4, please. Before seeing the resource, it is part of an interview that Global Journalism made of Putin, where he openly asked him a lot of the most, wanted questions from all around the world. Especially in this clip, he addressed also exactly the topic he was referring to, where he said protecting the people in Russia.
Now, team in favor, Rodrigo.
Okay. I think it's important to say that election candidates in Russia are closely monitored by the Central Election Commission, allowing Putin to compete with favorable field and reducing the chances of an opposition to candidate to win. And if we go directly to the point, the elections in Russia are neither free nor fair and will essentially serve as a formality to extend Putin's mandate in power.
Okay, if there is no more interventions, each team have 2 minutes to prepare your conclusion. Time's up. Which team would like to start their conclusion? Okay, team in favor, please give your conclusion. You have 5 minutes.
Okay.
2 minutes. Better.
Okay, so Vladimir Putin's leadership has brought significant stability and economic growth to Russia. So particularly after the turbulent post-Soviet years. So his strategic management of state resources, especially in the energy sector, has fueled national prosperity and improved living standards for many Russians. Putin's assertive foreign policy has also restored Russians' influence on the global stage, enhancing national pride and sovereignty. But I want to highlight this part that in 2008, when Putin concluded his second consecutive presidential term and was constitutionally barred from third, he supported Dmitry Medvedev, his close ally, as the candidate for the presidency. So Medvedev's victory and subsequent presidency, starting on May 7, 2008, so allowed Putin to assume the role of prime minister, so thereby maintaining significant influence in the government. But this move demonstrates Putin's ability to navigate constitutional constraints while ensuring continuity and stability in Russian leadership. his pragmatic approach to managing political opposition, allowing for controlled pluralism while preventing destabilization, and his effective media management have further solidified his enduring support among the Russian populace.
Okay, thank you. And now with the conclusions of the team against. Mauricio?
Okay, so in conclusion, as a team, as we have seen during the debate, some of the actions that Putin has made during his presidency are the lack of democracy, violations to the human rights, corruption, aggressive exterior politics, economic problems, manipulation of information, and we didn't discuss about the lackness of innovation and progress that brought Putin to Russia. So all these points are the evidence that we have presented to conclude that Putin is a bad leader and is not the leader that Russia needs, and it could be better if there will be another one.
Natalia?
Thank you. The evolution of Putin's approach reflects a shift towards centralized control and authoritarianism, with key opposition figures like Boris Nemtsov and Alexei Navalny facing targeted efforts to diminish their influence. Also, Putin's autocratic leadership style has contributed to strained international relations and a tarnished global reputation for Russia. And the disregard for international human rights commitment, exemplified by repressive actions against the opposition, has damaged Russia's standing on the global stage. And the ongoing conflict in Ukraine further underscores the consequence of Putin's authoritarian rule, with most Western nations rallying behind Ukraine and imposing sanctions against Russia.
Nicolas?
Okay, so in conclusion, as a team, we paint a picture of a leader who has prioritized the control, consolidation of power, and over democratic principles. Through authoritarian tactics such as the centralization of power, manipulation of institutions, and marginalization of dissent, Putin has maintained a tight grip on power for many years.
After that, we finished the 9th and the 29th debate of all the subjects. Please give us a very acclaimed applause.